Today's podcast is brought to you in part by Powerful Creators Mentoring. Are you ready to manifest rapid growth in your business or sales career? Head on over to powerfulcreators.net/mentoring. Enter promo code MENTOR96, all caps, and get 96% off your first mentoring session. Today's show is also brought to you in part by Naked Warrior Recovery. I have been on a personal health journey to improve myself, and after stumbling across Naked Warrior's Happy Berry energy drink with all the good vitamins and electrolytes that give you great balance and mental clarity without the junks and jitters that other brands give you, I personally can't get enough of Naked Warrior energy drink powder. It tastes like happy berries too. Click the link in the bio, type in promo code JBolton at checkout for 20% off.
Welcome to the Josh Bolton Show, where we dive into interesting and inspiring conversations. And now, your host, Josh Bolton.
Hey, how you doing?
One sec.
Oh, there he is.
There we go. How's it going, buddy?
Good, and yourself?
Very good. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, for sure.
So how's everything been on your end?
Good. Actually, really good. I kind of paused my podcasting just for a bit. Like I'm in a business mentoring program for my coaching program that I started.
Okay.
And so it's good though, because I'm kind of well ahead on my episodes. So I had enough episodes to carry me through till about May. So
wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just weekly, right? So it's that part is taken care of. I ended up getting an interview with Hannah set up. So I have a couple interviews next week that I'm doing. Yeah. So thanks for the hookup on that. Did you reach out to Katie at all?
Yeah, I haven't heard back. So I'll try again.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
I probably didn't do good copy. So she was just like, oh, it's like every other person.
And perhaps. Yeah. Who knows? Or just she's super busy too. So who knows? Cool, dude. Yeah. Everything's good on your end?
Everything's good on my end.
Beautiful.
So like your business mentoring, are you joining a program or are you actually like coaching people?
So I'm like, to explain it, I'm a coach. So I do like transformational coaching or mindset coaching, as well as sound therapy. But I'm in a coaching program for coaches, I guess. So okay. It's like a business mentoring program. It's called Strong Coach. So it's like a pretty comprehensive, what would it be, about 3.5 month sort of step by step, how to, get your ideal client, how to get an offering that resonates, how to market yourself, properly, like taking all of the guesswork out, because all these guys have done it before. So they're basically taking you step by step. Okay, this works, this doesn't. So it just cuts down a lot of wasted time, money, yada, yada. It's just kind of like, that's sort of the idea with it. So
cool.
Yeah.
I have a group I work with and we meet like every Thursday usually. And that's the same thing he does. It's just like, okay, I've done this. You don't have to do it. Just follow my roadmap kind of thing.
Yeah.
Save yourself a fortune that I've spent figuring this out.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because I did spend a decent chunk on this, but conversely, how much extra time would I have spent otherwise on, bogus marketing or just kind of like trial and error and, 2 or 3 years of and then going through all this different, the imposter syndrome and self-doubt and everything else that comes along with that, those lovely feelings that, that come when you're just doing it by yourself. Right. But when you have I have an actual mentor that we check in once a week, we have a mastermind, we do a group call. So it's all the group kind of collaborating where you guys with it. So just lots of great energy, everybody, like-minded people, everybody's super into it. And so, to me, that's worth every penny at that point. Right.
Oh, 100%. And if you work it right, you can also get contacts from them and be like, oh, hey, I like if it's usually a Zoom call, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, so if they have it set up, you could just direct message and be like, hey, I like what you're saying. Can I get an email kind of thing?
100%. So, and that's just, that makes you feel like you're making progress. Whereas sometimes if you're just striking out on your own, it's, you get lost along the way. And that's when you start getting, that's when the little inner critic starts chiming in and you're not an entrepreneur. What the hell are you trying this for? Yeah.
You haven't made $1,000 in 1 month. What are you, who says what?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And whereas these people are the opposite. They're like, no, you're going to be making 20 grand a month. But I'm like, Okay. I mean, I'm not going to say no. We'll see, but and then eventually you just kind of take your energy goes that way when it's who you associate with, right? There's so much books and stuff, things of that nature. You're the product of your environment and the five closest people you spend your time with and all that stuff. I firmly believe in that for sure. So it's a lot of that. It's just keeping that momentum, right, is key. And just that good energy of just like, it's no failures. It's you're learning. There's a learning curve. Be fine with it. Start messy. All that kind of like, that like encouraging. So it's reframing what would normally be fear or kind of hesitation and just boom, just fucking do it. Have fun with it. Right. And just get out there and do it. So it's been great.
Oh, 100%. That's the same approach I have with this show. It's just in the beginning, it's like, just do it. You're going to look like an idiot. And like for the first 30 episodes, most likely no one's going to listen to it. So it's okay.
Sure. Exactly. Right. And good for you for like taking a step past 30. I did it for like years, just interviewing my friends and you know what I mean? Just kind of getting comfortable with it. I always used to, or I shouldn't say always, but I had issues with like public speaking and everything. So even behind, when nobody could see me, I would still kind of stutter on my words and get all, damn it, why can't I talk properly? You know what I mean? And so, it took a few years to kind of just normalize everything. So, I mean, if you did it in 30 episodes, good for you. I took years to finally be like, okay, I can start interviewing people that I don't know.
Yeah. For me, it's a weird thing. I've never been scared of public speaking or public events kind of thing. The thing I'm scared about is actually talking to someone one-on-one.
Oh, interest. Really? That's like usually the opposite with people.
Well, because I'm worried I'm going to like mess up, stumble and stammer and look like a fool. Oh. But now as I've been doing this, I realize I'm like, oh, wait, that's just like anxiety kind of like overwhelming me.
Totally. I still liked our interview that we did, like you and I.
It was so much fun.
It hasn't come out yet. That's why I haven't given you the links. It's one of my ones that I got
the
ahead
backlog.
Of the game. Backlog, exactly. So don't worry. I will get you the links as soon as it comes out. But
perfect.
I thought it was great. I just loved your honesty and your story and and just super cool, dude. I loved how friggin' transparent you were about everything, because that's what really resonates with people, right? When you just hey, like this is what I dealt with, my upbringing and just bullying, all the anxiety, right? Very common stories, and yet the way that you presented it was so just like, it was like very much that was my past, right? Like maybe I carry it a bit to a degree with me, but like I very much have moved past this and look at me, what I'm doing now. So super cool.
Oh, and that's one of those I tell people now. It's like podcasting is one of those. Martial arts saved me back then, but podcasting has fixed any residual damage. Realizing, talking to just, I think it's like 170 now I've talked to people.
Nice.
That it's like, it's the same story. A lot of us just get a really shitty hand. Yeah. We learn to deal with it. And usually that shitty hand varies in what it looks like. But in the end, if you take it for what it is, a learning lesson instead of a penalty, you actually were given a blessing in disguise.
Hell yeah. And you know what, it's easy to not see it that way at the beginning, but I'd even say 10 times out of 10 you'll look back and go, you know what, there was a reason for that. There was a lesson to be learned, right? And sometimes it takes a few months, sometimes it's like years later you look back and go, yeah, no, I understand what that was now, which is super cool.
So I'm curious for you, because actually one of those things I don't really talk about it, because I mean, it was just during high school. You're a sound therapy guy. So how much does music affect you?
Oh, big time. Yeah, for sure. I would love to talk about that. Music was like so for you with martial arts was for me for music.
Okay.
So that was my parents, divorced when I was 13. So right going into high school. Same thing, like I had some bullying because I was a smaller kid, and I was just very stunned because like I had a sheltered upbringing up to that point. And then when my parents divorced, I was just like, whoa, it's just like, and then I'm starting high school and, there's all the, navigating that. So high school, there was no middle school where I was from. It was grade 8 to 12. So I'm this small kid, kind of stunned look on my face. I'm shy to begin with. And now I'm kind of like got a long face too, because I'm sad. And I was this prime target. Like bullies are just like, what the hell is this guy's deal? Right. And he's small and he's kind of got a frown on his face. He's not talking to anybody. Let's let's do a number on them. So that's how it was. The first couple of years of high school was that, right? And then my mom bought me a acoustic guitar. I was into sports up to that point, but my emotions would always very much get a hold of me. I had a hard time. I do very good in practice when it was kind of a harmonious, practice kind of, less pressure, right? The less pressure of competition. And then as soon as you turn up the pressure of competition with trash talking and all that stuff, that wasn't my vibe. I always like to be the harmonious person. So that's why music works so well for me, because generally you get the odd dick that tries to outplay you, even though you're like in a band with them. But 98% of the time it's the idea is to be harmonious and work together and have a conversation. Right. So as soon as I got into music, that was like my outlet for processing what was happening externally to me, as well as, what was going on inside of me, and being able to articulate it in a safer atmosphere. Cause like you can be very vague and abstract with the way that you're presenting yourself musically, that you can't when somebody's asking, hey, like, how are you feeling right now? And you don't feel like, I'm depressed, I feel like shit when you're like 13. You don't want to say that, right? Or if you do, it's like, and then people try and give you advice, the unsolicited advice, or worse yet, go, this happens. This is life. Just get over it, right? Like, well, no, it's like I'm 13. Like, don't tell me to get over it, So it would be, that was, it's similarities as far as the parallels, like with you with martial arts, being you're able to then channel anxiety and process things in a different way and start getting confidence and such. That was like, for me, was for music for sure. So it's been a huge way of me communicating with my world and my experience. It's been very important to me for sure.
100%. Like you said, yeah. When they recruited me, I just had so much anger. I just put it in the bag. But then as I'm learning, I realized I had anxiety. The reason I brought up music, I'll tie that in a second, is like high school was brutal. I was angry. So I knew, even though I got bullied, I could channel all that anger into a bag and not get in trouble at school. But I realized now, as an adult looking back, I only made it worse because I would listen to extremely aggressive, like Slipknot, Slayer, Metallica, Disturbed, like religiously. It was funny. One time, actually, Spotify, when they were starting to do that whole year in a recap kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was one of the first. And they actually, I took a screenshot. I still have it saying, you are one of the top 7% listeners of Slipknot. You have beat all other fans and you are the top 7%. And that's when I sat there and I'm like, but I've never gone to a band. I've never bought merch. I've never done this. I'm like, how am I such a hardcore fan kind of thing?
Right. That's so funny. Top 7%. That's a lot of Slipknot. Yeah.
It was practically going nonstop all day.
Is that right? So, funny you mentioned that's a good topic to mention too. Cause like for now, for example, now that I've done a lot of like inner work and I've done like a lot of like specifically like language, how I'm talking to myself, inner dialogue. A lot of my coaching is based on the language we use, inner dialogue. And then from there, how we're interacting with the people in our lives, our relationships. So that definitely is, a product of your environment, where you're exposing yourself to the books, the movies. So growing up, as an angry teenager and, and a even angry 20 to 30-year-old, I watched a lot of action movies, gore, which would like desensitize you to it. The video games I played and the music, same thing. I listened tons of Rage Against the Machine. And I understand there's like a cathartic sort of, it's kind of like, okay, an example you can use is people listen to blues music. And it's like empathetic. It's like normally blues music, you'd expect it to be kind of depressed, right? Because it's the nature, it's called blues, right? But in fact, it's the opposite. It's uplifting because you have this empathetic exchange or experience that somebody's feeling something that you're also feeling. So you have this connection and it's actually uplifting and there's a connection. So that's how I felt with like the Rage, right? Rage Against the Machine. I'm like, yeah, exactly. F you. Oh, well, I'm not going to do what you tell me, right? When you're a rebellious teenager, that resonates with you. But fast forward to, my state of mind now, my preferred state of mind anyways. And I much prefer to be, calmer. So these movies that certain things don't age well. And I'll go back to like when I grew up, it was the 90s music. So if you think of Seattle 90s grunge, very dark, Music.
Depressing.
Depressing, right? Based on classic rock, a lot of great things carried forward in time but the subject matter itself, what's being sung about, drugs, like heavy, like heroin drugs, like, really bad, like life-changing, life-ending drugs. There was a huge amount of that in the Seattle scene, which looking back is, not my bag anymore, man. It was like, on the Kurt Cobain, and I love, and fantastically gifted songwriter, and I love Nirvana, but very dark stuff. Pearl Jam, at least, grew out of that. Pearl Jam's kind of like, in my opinion, the Rolling Stones of my generation, this band that's been together and creating content for like 40, well, maybe not 40 years, 30 years. Yep, 30 years. I'm aging myself. 30 years. And, so that is what I like to see, because every other band, there was like a death, even years later, Chris Cornell hanging himself. Like, there's so much like cursed stuff coming out of that music scene. And I can't relate to it as much anymore. Intentionally don't relate to it. I don't relate to the darkness. I understand it and it's still there, but I'm very much trying to get out of that. I don't like, I used to like Batman. I love the like self-destructive dark nature of Batman. Over Spider-Man or Superman, too whimsical for me. I liked that darkness, and that goes a lot into like, I was a heavy drinker for, the majority of my adult life. So I, relate, that's a depressant, right? So I'm putting myself in that lower, darker, lower vibrational state. So as far as with music now, it's a lot of like, and whatever, it might sound however people want to say it, but it's like the new age instrumental. Like, I love classical music. I love the combination of just piano by itself with like rainfall, or because there's like that genetic memory attached to like just nature sounds. That's why people love that. That's why it helps people get to sleep, right? Ocean sounds, rainfall, stuff of that nature, mixed with just nice, like those healing frequencies you hear about, like the solfeggio frequencies, like, there's like energy centers, the chakras in your body. You got 7 of those, and each of those chakra centers has like a frequency that is just vibrationally just resonates with that energy source. So getting into that, and that really helps me with studying, with reading, just feeling better about myself. Imagination. I love just thinking about stuff, which is, I guess, essentially meditation at the end of the day. So things like that, that's more so what I'm listening to. I mean, I'll still go back and listen to, some of the old classics, because music has such a nostalgic connection, right? It's one of the most powerful things that I can listen to, like Californication by Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it brings me back to my graduation year. It brings me back to my first car that I had, right? The cassette that I had of Californication. It's like one of my top albums of all time. It brings me back to these times with fond memories, right? So music has that power as well that I love. And just being a musician, again, I can't speak to how well that has helped me develop into the person I am, and continues. It's like a personal journal or a personal like area that I can go, and it brings out, it brings out a different side of me. That it taps into something very deep inside of me that nothing else can. So
100%.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah. Like for me, it was funny. I went to my buddies yesterday, I believe. And I'm like, wait, did I do that yesterday? But we were hanging out, and I just, like, me personally, I've like cut myself off from most music, because I realized if I listen, it becomes almost like an addiction. I have to keep listening, and then it gets darker and darker till I slip back to the Slayer and Slipknot. I get nothing wrong with it, but it's like I don't want to be in a negative frequency. And sometimes if I have a hard like editing session, I'll just throw on some of that music, because it like really triggers like a focus mindset for me, but it's like a really negative war mindset. So I just have literally detoxed from like music essentially. But I also have been so busy, I don't have time for video games. So I was playing with my buddy, and I said, what this, it looks like there's another COVID strain going around that's actually pretty intense, the BA whatever 2. Yeah. And LA County being how we are in here in California, and they're like, ooh, we just took mask away, but we might have to put it back and go back to our old lockdown rules. Man. And I'm sitting there, I told him, like, when I'm not podcasting, I'm going to go do some video games, because it looks like fun's going to go away soon.
Right. Exactly. No, that's the thing, right? It's, it's totally what's going on in the world, and picking your spots. I like how you said that, detoxing, detoxing from music. I kind of had to do that with podcasting and like audiobooks, because I found that I would just be doing so much, I guess attempted at learning, learning. Okay. So I would be learning, but I wouldn't give myself enough space to then integrate it. So at that point, it's like, it's just information that's scattering my focus and scattering my mind. So I was like, you know what, I got to like pick some of these wonderful books that I'm reading or these podcasts that are inspiring me, but then give it enough space to then integrate what I've learned. Otherwise it's just, man, it's like you kind of spin your tires, and it gets you into this like holding pattern of, almost too much information, and then you're not applying it. And it's like another form of procrastination almost, right?
Well, it's like analysis paralysis. It's a thing for trading. You overanalyze it and you're paralyzed.
Completely.
Yeah, like this one guest I was interviewing 2 days ago. Yes, because it was Wednesday. I don't usually do Wednesdays. And he's saying he reads 4 to 5 books at any given time every week.
Wow.
And I told him, like, dude, I would have fried a long time ago, because I'm trying to remember this one story, then this one's teaching, then this one here. I'm like, props for you. I'm like, I haven't read a good book in like 2 weeks, but I've just been really busy. I said, actually, but that's my excuse. I'm like, dude, I said, hey, props for you for doing 4 and like reading 4 books within the given week. I'm like,
I couldn't imagine.
Intense. That's intense.
Yeah, that is intense. And then how much of that do you actually, I mean, I think of a guy like my brother, and he's got the photographic memory or whatever. Right. He hears or reads it once and he retains it. It's like a vault in his head. And I'm not like, I need repetition, right? Mm-hmm. I need the repetition of the message to, or reminders. Repetition and reminders are big for me. So that's why I journal a lot, because they say, you retain, I think 20 or 30% of what you hear, but then you retain 50% if you write it down, and then 80% if you teach. So that's kind of why I got into coaching as well. Selfish reasons, because then it's like accountability for myself. And then because I'm teaching it, essentially, it really sharpens and hones my application of everything that I've learned that's important to me now as well. So that's kind of a selfish purpose for what I'm doing as well.
I think a lot of coaches or mentors or whatever you want to call them, that's mostly what it is like, I want to remember it and I know how it's something good. And it's nice that I'm making extra money, but it's like, it's more just to help me out. So helping me out helps them out. Totally.
And it's just like a win-win. Like that's, yeah, exactly. I could see that being a big thing in like the martial arts community, right? Like it's, as soon as you get to a certain stage, then like you're the guy that's teaching it, but it's helping you at the same time. And it's just like this, that's what keeps the whole train going, right?
Pretty much. Actually, I'm at that point. I was joking with my instructor on Wednesday. I said, I might have to, like, selfishly, even if I'm not getting paid a lot, take on a couple students a day.
Yeah.
Just so I can remember the basics. So we can, because we're going over really, I'm trying to go for 3rd-degree black belt in my system now.
Nice.
Which
buddy.
For a civilian, it's like it's actually the hardest for a civilian non-teacher to do.
Crazy.
And that's where he told me, he's like, if you're teaching though, you can remember this. And I'm like, yeah, but gas is really expensive right now. And I got to go like 20 miles one way.
Yeah. That's a good idea, actually. That's great. And that's cool, because you're at like the pinnacle on one sense of your personal journey with this. Mm-hmm. And then you're also like, looking to rewind the like, you're kind of doing that simultaneously with like going back in time, essentially, and going back to the basics and kind of taking that on at the same time is really good idea. Really cool.
That's for me, because when I got out of high school, it was one of those, I tried taking on odd jobs that didn't work. And that's where my instructor, being the quick Middle Eastern salesman, he's like, hey, you're not working. You live with parents. You don't need that much money. Come work with me. I teach you a lot of stuff.
I love it.
And then, as I was training, I was teaching for like 2 years. And that's one of those, I learned so much so quickly in that like 2 years that would have taken me another 7 on top of my 7 currently. So it's like, there is something to it, especially like we were saying, like if you teach, it solidifies, then you can figure out a process to automate it and then move to the next one.
Oh, completely. Yeah, it's super important. I love that. It's exactly what my main mentor, Mark England, said. And it really resonated with me. It's like, and it's all about like why I write things down. Because people, like, if I'll be on a call with somebody, I'm writing it down. They're like, oh, you don't have to like write this down, or like if you're recording this, I'm like, no, like this is kind of part of my process. Like when I put pen to paper, it's different. It sits different in my brain. And You know what I mean? You can just kind of, it's even better than typing, like just the pen
I was
to
gonna say
paper.
typing on my phone. If I need to remember something to do, yeah, I'll type it in my notepad. But to learn it, it doesn't stick.
Completely, man, for sure. So yeah, so no, it's interesting dynamic, but yeah, it's been great, man. It's I just so I was doing a job for 23 years. It was since I was 16 years old, and I just quit that the end of January.
Are you making enough to quit the rat race?
No, not yet.
Okay.
but I had enough saved. And so basically what I did is I pivoted off so I got my pension. So 23 years pension, pretty, a pretty spicy meatball there. And so a decent chunk of it I was able to get just in cash, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm using that cash and my wife is incredibly supportive and just so awesome that plus I reduced my monthly bills to just a fraction. It's crazy when you really dial in your money. It's like anything else, like when you dial in your nutrition, whatever it may be, when you really constantly look at it and just audit it. And dude, I got it down to like a fraction of what it once was. And granted, I paid off my vehicle and this and that. We refinanced the house and such. Kind of did the usual, like entrepreneur. If you're going to, bet on yourself, you got to make sure that you're set up for success. So we definitely did that. I got my bills to I guess whatever. Yeah, whatever. I'll say like in around $800 or $900 a month from back when at the height of like when I'm paying off a hot tub, living on. We got to the stage I want to say about 6 years ago where we're just like, you know what, we decided we weren't going to have kids, and we're both making good money, so let's kind of do some flexing, right? Like, so we bought the hot tub and a camper van, like one of the Westphalia pop top camper vans, things that we always wanted when we were growing up and we wanted as a relationship. So we got it. And it was kind of like that Jim Carrey thing. He has a really good quote about like, I hope everybody gets everything that they want, like externally, to realize that that's not what you need. That's not what's going to satisfy you. And so that was kind of the case. So we ended up, paying off all the stuff. And I realized I'd really felt limited and sort of handcuffed by my job. And that was kind of going hand in hand with the lack of fulfillment I was getting from my job. And then realizing that I sort of almost trapped myself in a way.
Like golden handcuffs?
The golden handcuffs. Exactly. I was going to call it the golden handshake. Same thing, right? Exactly. So that's kind of what it was. And, and it's, I'm getting to I just turned 40 last summer, and, I'm getting to the stage where I'm like, I guess people say my midlife crisis. For me, it was more like the existential, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? And then, okay, my values, these values that I like, what are my values and principles? I never really thought about it because it was always like we talked about earlier in this conversation, like learned behavior. Are these like my parents' values? I've just never really, you know what I mean? So there was a lot of that going on. So, I took 6 months off work just under the guise that I just needed to mentally and physically just kind of unplug, unwind, figure out answer some of these questions. And I remember morning one that I woke up, there was a voice in my head saying, you're not going to go back to that. I was like, oh, that seems kind of strange. Where did that come from? And, within a couple of days, I'm out there in the forest, just like clearing my head, walking around in nature. And I have this like massive, like stream of ideas, this huge outburst of creativity. And I have my phone with me. So I'm just kind of like doing the voice to text memo. Okay. And then blah, blah, blah. Just like, it was crazy. It was just like sitting there waiting to come out of me. And, one thing led to another, and I had a great 6 months. I didn't get to the stage where I was even close to being able to, I didn't even quite know yet. It was still a feeling, but I'd gotten into coaching, but I hadn't got through a certification yet. So it was just like right on the edge, I guess. And I chose to go back. I wasn't quite at the stage where I could pull the plug, and I went back for another 4 months. And in those 4 months, I had this overlap of getting my certifications, starting up the coaching, the one-on-one coaching with folks, and getting a feel for it. Is this something I want to do? Decided I really loved it. Continued on with that. So by January, I had my second level 2 certification within Lifted, which is the whole like language arts and everything with Mark England. And it's just phenomenal. I'd highly recommend anybody check it out. He has a great TED Talk. Yeah, Mark England, look it up. And the power that he has of presentation. He has been in education. He was I believe a high school teacher for a lot of years, and also a martial artist. He blew his knee out at age 23 and just slipped into like the whole victim mentality. What am I going to do with my life now? All this other stuff. And what led him out of this was the language, the inner dialogue, how you speak to yourself. And then he was so passionate about that. And that's what he's been doing the last 15 years. So he has the presentation down and just the way he talks and everything. I remember at the very end of the call, he showed this video that was like a metaphor for what he expects or wants us to do. And it was like the Sasquatch festival, that music festival. It's just like this person with a cell phone up, and he's filming this, like, one of these like crazy dancer people. And you can tell initially they're filming it to be like, oh, look at this idiot. Right. And then about, a minute into the song, a couple other people go over there and they're dancing. And then by the end of this video, the end of the song, there's literally like the ground is shaking while this person's holding the camera, because there's hundreds of people going over there and then just doing the crazy dancing. And then it cuts back to Mark, and Mark does the whole like, I, by the power vested in me, you guys go forth. And basically the metaphor being like, hold the rhythm, like you're the centerpiece of your community. Go do this. And I was like, God damn it. I started tearing up. I'm like, this, I'm quitting my job tomorrow. This is what I'm doing the rest of my life, because it just resonated with me. It got me so effing amped up. I didn't quite quit the next day. I had the letter in my back pocket, but I was like, you know what? I should probably sleep on this a couple of days.
Give it like 3 days.
Yeah. Right. And, figure out what I'm doing, like, because my house is going to be up for refinancing. I should get ahead of that and figure out some finances and yada, yada. So, that's kind of what's led me to this now. But yeah, to answer your question, no, I'm not at the stage where I could pay it off. But, I firmly believe, I love the one Wayne Dyer quote. I think he actually took it from somebody else, but he used it a lot. He said and I'll butcher it because I'm not nearly as articulate. And again, my memory is a little bit shot. It's something along the lines of, if you move confidently in the direction of your dreams with the assumption of, or basically a faith, the faith-based assumption, the miracles will happen essentially. Right. So it's, I've put the work in, and it's kind of like putting the work in, having some faith, and just don't give up and just keep going with it. So I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get to the stage that I need to get to. And that includes if I have to go work part-time at Costco or something like that, like I'll do it. It's fine. The main thing is I got out of what you said, the golden handcuffs, which was, dude, it was huge for me. That's 23 years of my life. That was I literally grew up in the company, literally. Mm-hmm. And it paid my bills for everything. So I felt this like, loyalty. And I felt this like, it's scary. It's like, this is what I know. This is my identity is tied up in what I've been doing, and there's like a whole, like, if you do get into like what we're talking about, the inner critic, it's just like, well, who are you to walk away from this? Like, why are you quote unquote better than all these people? And it's not about that, of course. Right. But there's times in your head that you say this to yourself, and, when things don't go, there's a honeymoon phase. So I just got through the honeymoon phase, and now like reality's kicking in. I didn't get as much money as I thought I was going to, as far as my savings and all that. So I'm like, oh shit. So how's this going to go? And that's it, man. It's like stuff happens, but it's also like we talked about, stuff happens for a reason. There's lessons in everything. It's how you frame it. It's how you react to it. It's how you use what you're given and move forward with it. So and it's good, man. I think I like being forthcoming with my problems and issues, because that's what resonates with people. It's funny. My mom even mentioned like the first, the first postings and my first like attempt at putting myself out there as a product, right, has been that last month. My mom just said, and it's true, but it's funny because my mom doesn't usually, unless I ask her, she won't usually say anything. And it's like, I'd say 98%. No, I was actually shocked. It's usually 100% supportive. It's just like, you know what, you keep doing it. I'm proud of you. But this is the first time she unsolicited, she said to me, I don't think what you're doing is quite resonating yet. You're sort of unclear with your message. I was like, oh shit. And I was kind of thinking, sorry, excuse my language. I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, okay, no, fair enough. And that makes sense, right? Because I'm still trying things on. It's like trying on whatever, trying on different shirts, trying on different hats. And I have to reinvent myself at this point. And I have the time and space to do it. And what I'm doing is I'm putting out sort of a collage of my experiences and what I'm doing right now. But to Mom's point, she said, you're not showing the painful side of entrepreneurship, which is what's going to resonate with people. And at that point, I hadn't really had that because I was still on cloud nine and like everything was cool. And this is exciting, right? So that's what I was sharing. And so now I'm kind of at the stage where I'm starting to hit some resistance, right? And so I'm going to start sharing that and I'm getting it dialed in as far as, okay, who am I trying to resonate with? Because you can't be everything to everybody, right? There's so much niche and nuance and genres, subgenres in everything now. So that's what I'm getting dialed in with. That's what we're in with the business program I'm in right now is that ideal client and what that looks like. So it's all about, getting that clarity to be able to move forward. So that's where I'm at right now.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah. I had a very similar experience too. It was October 2020. That's when it was like a heated lockdown for COVID. Me and my dad just went camping in a beach in Northern California, and it was Northern California. And so we got some weed and we were smoking away for the whole week.
Nice. Nice.
Pretty much one of the days, I just sat there and could have been multiple things going on. I mean, there was that whole thing was just a shit show. We pretty much only ate salt and pork and beans. So like my ankle like swole up to like the size of grapefruit from all the sodium. But, before all that it kicked in, I was sitting there and I'm this like in front of the beach, took a couple hits and just sitting, and the same thing, same voice, clear as day. It's not me, but it's not from the external world, at least that I could perceive. Pretty much says, do what you love, the money will come, and you will eventually be free. But you have to have faith in it. And I'm a very skeptic in faith. But I know it was just one of those, so I wrote it down. I actually still have the notes. I think it's in that little bin there.
Cool.
That's so high. Like the words
you're just like
everywhere. I'm like writing up and then down and sideways. But it was just one of those, I was like, oh, that's where I was before I got COVID. And when I got COVID in December, it was kind of like the same voice hit in. It's like, see what I mean? Do what you love. Don't work for others. And that's what made me want to start the podcast after I've recovered.
Yeah.
But now it's I'm actually looking up to do a YouTube series, well, YouTube in general. And I want to say, are you looking into YouTube?
Yeah, you know what? We just started. So I have a few collaborators that I do with us. Megan McLaren, she just started a life coaching practice as well. So she's been like a clinical, like a counselor, social worker for years, for about 10 years. But she was interested in doing the life coaching just so she can, again, just work for herself and, do her own hours and such. So I've been doing we did 3 weeks of a daily show. Like we did five shows,
Monday
shows
through Friday.
Yeah, basically Monday through Friday.
I was like 5 a day. Geez.
Yeah. Or sorry. Yeah, exactly. 5 a week. Pardon me. And it was cool, dude. So we basically we do it live. So we do this app called Restream, where you can go to Facebook Live, YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, and Twitter Live all at the same time. And then, of course, as you know, with Zoom, you do it through Zoom to restream to all these platforms. And then, as you know, through Zoom, you get your audio. So we put the audio up as a podcast, and boom, all of a sudden you got like 5 things right off the bat every day has like a different theme. So it's like Mind Shift Monday, Toastmaster Tuesday, which is kind of like the rip off at Toastmasters. What if Wednesday, where you what if the good stuff instead of the what if I have a bad day today, or what if the roads are bad and I get in an accident, which the brain tends to do. So kind of opposite of that. Third act Thursday, and reframe Friday. So clearing all the stuff that's happened to you throughout the week and reframing it before you go into the weekend. And then on the weekend, I have some optional shows of like basically based on music, like Sound Bath Sunday and Sound Therapy Saturday, and just kind of play some tracks and have in the background or whatever for people. So yeah, we did that for about 3 weeks. This week we kind of got off track with it a little bit. I want to like sit back now that we've done 3 weeks worth of content, because we definitely found again, when we're talking about like honeymoon phases, it's kind of like everybody's super interested in it. And then it kind of unfortunately has, and I've seen it so much in bands that I play in, there's initial excitement. Everybody's like, oh, cool. What's Matt doing now? And then after, a couple of weeks of it, they're like, oh, okay, well, I can see this anytime. And then, it dwindles. So now I like pulled back from it. And now people are like, hey, like I liked your posts. Like, where have they gone? You know what I mean? So it's kind of figuring out where it lays down. And at the end of the day, it was like about getting a good foundation. So we got 15 episodes. We got the YouTube channel up. It's Matt Gardiner live. So I say it's live as in, because then that way it spreads out to like you can do live music, which we do. My band's played on there, live coaching, live language games, just live. And I like so I did live in all capitals. So live is like an acronym for live in vibrational excellence or live in vibrational enthusiasm. So it's kind of got like a hidden meaning that way as well. So yeah, we've been just doing it. Like I say, about 3 weeks now, and we're just starting to look into. We're going to do our first evening special, because usually what we do is we do them in the morning, so it's kind of like a morning show. And what we're doing is we're going to start branching out with it and doing like I think the first one we're going to do is like a Wednesday evening. So we're going to do this What If Wednesday, but we're going to invite 10 or 12 people to the Zoom call, and put them in. I don't know if you see them with the Zoom. They have that like podium seating or whatever. So it'd be kind of fun to like have them in this like a podium style or stadium seating. It looks like their little heads are in this stadium or whatever. It's kind of fun. So yeah, and then just do some like live coaching and just start interacting with some of the folks that have liked or commented on the videos, bringing them into it. And then, you know what I mean? From there, it's just like word gets out. So to me, that's a much more comprehensive and interactive way than just doing the usual social media. And it's fun. I don't know. I love doing like live stuff. Being in a band all my life, there's some kind of adrenaline that I like, that I'm familiar with, as far as like, just, there's no safety net, right? Live can go sideways pretty quick. And it has a couple times before, as we're learning that, how to use all this stuff. Cause it's like, I tried to do too much, honestly, at first. I'm sure you can relate to this. It's like,
yeah,
I was trying to pump in music during breaks and like sound effects and stuff on episode 1. And it was just like, nah, let's one thing at a time.
That was totally me. So when I first started, highly edited transitions, this and that.
Yeah.
And it was like the guest was like, I didn't like how that sounded. Could you cut it out, kind of thing? And it's like, well, it's going to sound a little funny. I don't know where I could chop it to make it sound streamless. Now I'm like, unless you have an NDA problem, I'm not chopping it.
Yeah,
NDA,
exactly. Yeah.
It's like NDA, sure, I'll go back and chop it, kind of thing. I don't want you to lose your job, but unless it's that, I don't even need a doctor's note. Yeah. I'm not going back. That's too hard.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was the same way with the beginning of the podcasting, editing it out, all the blank spaces, and it doesn't even sound natural. Like I love, like this is already feels fantastic, right? And that's what the benefits of like interviewing with a fellow podcaster is like, is this, what you feel comfortable. There's like this mutual, like, comfortability, right, that comes with it. So which is super cool. But yeah, it's I love it, man. I love just I think people can tell too, right, when something's super edited. It's like with music. I've always liked music a little more ragged, where it's like, we did a couple albums ago, we didn't even have a click track. We just recorded sort of like White Stripes or a band like that, where there's going to be tempo changes, because that adds some drama to it sometimes, where you speed up at the chorus, or, you know what I mean? It's just sort of natural. Like recording to the click and having everything super perfect is fairly recent as far as like in the music history. Like it's just in the last like 20 years where there's like Pro Tools and editing, like audio, digital editing. And I guess what I mean, like with the way that we can do it now and everything's super perfect and all that. It's
almost unnaturally perfect.
It is 100% unnaturally perfect, for sure. So I've always liked to have a little bit of a, little bit of that human touch. In fact, one of my bands growing up, we called ourselves Vox Humana, which is Latin for the human voice. So, and that was very much like our mission statement. It was just to be kind of like a garage rock band almost, where there's like some lo-fi elements where like, sometimes there might be a little bit out of tune string, and, the vocals aren't 100% in pitch. I wouldn't use pitch correction. And, it just is what it is. It comes across that way. That was kind of our style. Right. And, I still dig it. I like that. I like that kind of, a presentation in music and art in general.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like for me in general, listening to as much music as I did back then, I could it's one of those, it was sad to say, if someone would play me a song now, I could tell you whether they were auto-tuned or not.
Totally.
Just by, and it's one of those, someone was like, oh, this person never used auto-tune. They say they never do. And they played it to me and I said, they do.
Yeah.
And I like, well, you don't know. I said, do whatever, like Google search and you'll find out. And then they're like, oh shit, they were lying. I'm like, well, yeah, because autotune, even though it makes you sound really good, even if you have a horse of a voice,
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes you sound like a freaking angel. So,
yeah.
and it's where the person's like, I don't understand. I'm like, it's just how the music industry is now.
It is. Yeah. As soon as that becomes the standard, it's like, that's what's standards and expectations, right? Which are both dangerous things. They can be. I mean, people can argue for their standards and all that, and expectations, but those can be dangerous, like just in life in general, right? That's where you can get resentments, and that's where you can get frustrated with life, is because you have these like arbitrary standards, or these standards that you believe are expectations from these types of things, right? And, oh, well, I guess I have to use auto-tune, even though that doesn't resonate with you in your heart. That's not something that you think that you need to bring to the table, or it's like goes against some kind of value of, if you don't view that it being as genuine, but there's like an expectation that you still have to do it, right? It's like, it's a tricky thing to navigate.
I'm saying you also as a musician would notice what the millennial loop or whoop. Do you know what that is?
No, I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, shoot. Okay, so it's like in this one music editor decided to listen to like a couple thousand songs, the big ones, and I guess it's like high, extra high, drop, low, medium, low, high, and it's just one of those. It's like a loop or a lull.
Okay,
but he said for some reason the primitive mind, we find comfort in it.
And is that like the melody does that? It goes like that high, low, or like the
high,
music
low,
itself?
high, like mid, then repeats itself.
Really?
And it's just one of those. He said the sad part though is because all the musicians have caught on that's a comforting sequence that it's actually now overused and people don't like it.
Then now it's like, exactly. We've adjusted to it. We're like, no. Interesting. I'll look that up. I have not heard of that. Mind you, I'm going to be honest. I've kind of turned into how my dad was. I never related to my dad, and I was about the same age as what he would have been, because he always introduced me to like his record collection, like Zeppelin and Hendrix and the Doors and yada yada, great stuff. But he was always like, after a certain year, he was like, that's where music ended for him. Like he did not listen to any new music. And I'm kind of finding the same way, but also based on kind of what we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, where I'm not really into, rock music or pop music. I'm more into like the, meditation and yoga music and new age and instrumental and classical, right? That's kind of what my tastes are now. But even if I was still into, music as we know it with pop music and such, I don't know. I guess I still think I'd be kind of like my dad. I have this like cutoff where it's just like, after whatever, early 2000s, I stopped listening to music. Somewhere along the line, I've kind of lost my way with what's viewed as a good new act. I'd have a hard time. You could probably list 10 new acts and I would know maybe one or two of them, or maybe heard of them, but have no idea what they did. So I definitely turned into my dad in that sense.
I'm going to say same for me, but like I've never been a fan of hip hop or pop or rap personally. Sure. And it's sad to say, I haven't really noticed any new rock bands or like good rock bands where there could be one that's just formed as we're speaking kind of thing. But I haven't noticed any good rock bands, or what was the other one I would listen to? There's something else, but like it only seems like it's hip hop, rap, and within only the hip hop and rap, it's only about making money, fucking them bitches, getting their Bugattis kind of thing. And it's like, that's great. But how does you getting rich and having gorgeous women at your whim help me get to your point kind of thing? Yeah. It just seems like I'm paying you to brag to me, which is, right? It doesn't seem cool, at least from my perspective.
For sure. And I guess for the people that do like it, and I'm just trying to understand it, is like maybe there's like they live vicariously and that's what they want. So that's how it appeals to them. But yeah, I've gotten into hip hop here and there, and I respect a lot of the, the production, and I like, it's so different from the music I generally listen to. So I'll give it the time of day in that sense. But yeah, for sure. I mean, the subject matter is especially now where it's just, like, again, when I was early 20s, I would get into like Dr. Dre, like the Chronic albums, and some Tupac, and just for
Eminem, the crazy white guy.
Eminem, of course, yeah, for sure. But again, very dark.
His early songs were like crazy morbid,
yeah, sensation. But that's how the 90s and the early 2000s were, man. It was like, yeah, I was thinking about that because we had to talk about that on one of my podcasts. It's like, holy shit, like, a lot of that stuff doesn't age well at all. Like the 90s was all about like offending people, right?
It doesn't age well at all.
No. And now we're like the opposite, where everybody's like rushing to be offended. Like they're looking to be offended. They almost want to be offended. Let's face it. Whereas like in the 90s, it's like you couldn't be offensive enough. Like, and that's on like mainstream TV, like, cable TV was like, Jerry Springer, Jackass, Limp Bizkit, all these like really crude, things that just have not aged well at all.
The one, though, I don't care if it aged well or not, where Limp Bizkit did his like bong hit off a 40-foot tall bong on the stage.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's just legendary. Even if it's not, that's not one of those. Yeah. You're like, oh, he can't do that. It's like, let's see you do that.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, even like Limp Bizkit was like inciting those riots at Woodstock. Like, yeah, like burn. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, there's some stuff that just clearly would not be well received today. But that's how it goes, man. Everything's in cycles. What's old is new. At some point, these things come back. I know 80s has sort of come back a little bit. The
80s and 90s fashion styles come back. I'm like, that's one of those. Those could have stayed dead.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, again, because I'm a child of the 90s, I'm a bit of a sucker for the lumberjack look. Being from Prince George, British Columbia, it's about 70,000. It's like a logger, legitimately like a blue collar logger mill town, right? So that was, you know what, I'm still a bit of a sucker for that. I like to go camping as well. So, nothing beats a good flannel jacket when you're out camping, right? So right. Some of the grunge stuff I like, but yeah, 80s stuff, other than the fact that it's like nostalgic. Like I like the neon colors, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and so some of that stuff is more nostalgia, but I wouldn't be caught dead actually wearing it, right? So
same.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just curious, how long do I got you for?
Oh yeah. It's about 10 to noon my time now. So yeah, like I got a good call it a good 20 minutes, depending on how things go.
Okay.
If you need to shoo me away in 10 minutes, I can wrap things up then as well.
We'll just keep going. It's just for me to know when to like start.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the 80s and 90s thing, yeah. For the music though, like I went to Vans Warped Tour in 2013.
Nice.
But a lot of the bands, is still indie. It was like an indie grunge underground
cool
kind of thing. And I was young and I was dumb. I'm like, hell yeah. And it was just one of those, I guess as much as I tried to act angry and like mean, I intrinsically knew I was kind, and I couldn't like just stand by and watch people get hurt.
Right.
And I was like that. I want to be Bane, but I know I'm Batman.
That's so funny. Nice.
And it was just, there was this band. I think we'll call it Chariot. I don't remember the actual name, but Chariot essentially was like this hardcore death metal, this, that. And they essentially, I don't know if it's used in Canada, but there was the mosh pit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. Then I'm not speaking crazy stuff.
No. Yeah.
But he kept calling for like, ring of death. So you're running as fast as you can, and it doesn't matter who's in front of you, keep going. Then he's like, a stampede, or like the wall collide, and he's like saying all these. Then he said something, it switched, and everyone started like crazy stampeding in every direction. Well, this poor young girl was only there because her boyfriend was there. Everyone's stepping on her, so I eventually just like block everyone and just take the heat on my back.
Oh,
and
man.
I helped her get out. And that's where like the boyfriend comes over and is just yelling at me. And she actually stands up, like, where were you? Yeah. Kind of thing. He risked his life to help me, and you just ran off of your whatever.
Yeah.
And I just told her, I'm like, I may be a single and a little simple at times, but I'm not going to watch someone get innocent, get run over kind of thing.
Oh, that's nice of you, man. That's so funny that the boyfriend steps in and
bro, why'd you do that, bro?
Yeah.
It's like,
so she didn't get trampled. That's why. Where? Yeah, exactly. Where were you? That's so funny.
But yeah, and that's one of those, I guess, because like they were huge in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh yeah, huge. Yeah.
And that was, that band, the underground one. And so they were trying to bring it back, even though like the concert venue specifically told them never to do that.
Really?
And it was just, because
it's like, why, right?
Yeah, it was just one of those. I'm like, okay, being edgy like that, that's cool, but like you almost just killed someone.
Yeah, you know what? I think, I remember specifically at a Pearl Jam concert, there was, I don't know if it was a mosh pit, but there's definitely like, movement. We're not quite to the stage where the people are, colliding and doing the moshing per se, but definitely people forcing their way to the front. And there was a few people that died in Italy, I believe. So that's kind of when things start turning, right? Where it's just not, I don't know, like for me, moshing was like, I always remember my friends telling me about it. They'd be like, I'd never been to a concert until I was about 14 or 15. And my friends kept telling me about like, I was like, they got to stage dive and, they got to do the crowd surfing. I was like, oh, that sounds super cool. And then the first time I got to do it, I remember my brother was watching me from afar and he's like, you looked like you were dead. Like when I was crowd surfing, because I was so kind of banged up and again, smaller kid, right? So I was just getting fucking ragdolled. And crowd surfing out there. And he's like, looked like they were just carrying a dead body over there. I'm like, yeah, you didn't look like you're having a good time at all. I'm like, yeah, you know what? In hindsight, you tell your friends, yeah, that was awesome. But in the meantime, it's kind of like,
this is terrible.
I did. Like, I was just getting banged up. I wasn't even enjoying the music. So I get it. I like, it's people can kind of, get that, the frustration out or whatever. I understand it, but it was never my thing. That's for sure.
100%. Yeah. Same for me. That's like my first actual, like, big concert I went to with my one martial arts buddy. There's a whole story with him. I'm not going to get it. We would need another hour just to explain that one. But essentially he took me and it was just one of those, he's with his girl and they're doing something. And the funny part, I realized I could just completely destroy this lady's reality for that day or more. But so it was at the Warped Tour, they would pay you $1 to watch a video. It was a vegan propaganda against meat and all that. Oh, so it was like the slaughterhouses and the blood spraying everywhere.
Oh man!
And my first comment was, because she was really petite, but she like looked really good too. I was like, oh, as long as you stand nearby, I'll watch this video, kind of thing. And so I watched it, and I didn't. And I think what bugged her is I didn't even flinch at all when all the murdering of the animals happened and blood spraying and this and that. And, tried to cut meat out, and she's like, are you gonna cut meat out permanently now? I'm like, well, I pretty much said, I don't know if I can give up eating pussy though.
Oh yes, look at you go. Oh man, you're just going for it, eh? That's so funny.
She just sat there and looked at me.
Yeah.
I said I also do like steaks, so
try and pivot. I like steaks, pussy steaks. Yeah.
And the lady just like stood there, handed me the $1.
Yeah.
And then like this weird emo guy came over, like long, lanky, had like no muscle mass, whatever.
Yeah.
Said, what did he say? She repeated it. And he immediately turned, looked at me, and he's like, hey, can I give you another $1 for that?
Oh man. Oh, that's too funny, man. That is good. Good. And that's what happens at these shows, That's that's unusual that they would be showing the they just set up.
She told me the logic, and this is where it ties back into music. She's like, "Oh, this is just an angry, testosterone-driven He-Man place. We figured this is appropriate." I'm like, "No, this is what we've like was a heavy metal guys like jokingly dream about. It's just like blood in the air, and it's like, oh my god,
totally. It's like the one spot that would have
that would actually fly over just fine.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, it's just like watching a Guar concert,
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man.
And that's where I told her, I said, just lightly, I'm like, you might want to more reconsider your tactics.
Yeah, go to like Radiohead or some other, where they're more than likely be either vegans already or people that are like on the cusp of being vegans. Try that, right? But
Nickelback,
right? Yeah. Oh man, Nickelback, too funny.
Yeah, it was just like, then after that, as I'm walking, because I lost him, he was like my buddy that took me there, he's off making out with a girl somewhere. I don't know where. And the funny part is there was a Trojan tent for the condoms.
Yeah. Yes.
And it was just one of those, they were handing out condoms just freely.
Safe sex.
Yeah. Well, they had this whole booth, inflatable booth where you could do it safely.
No way. Wow. Interesting. I haven't heard of that before.
And it was just one of those, I told him, like, this is genius. You get the child to run it before you buy
right.
it.
Kid thinks it's like one of those like blow up, you know what I mean? Castles, runs in there, traumatized for life.
And it was just one of those. I'm just told him, like, yeah, I don't have anyone I could test this out on.
Oh my gosh.
And jokingly, the one girl said, I'll help you. I'm like, you might have to clap. I'm good.
Oh wow. You're like a different person at these festivals.
That was just me back then. I was just blunt to the point, never held back.
Yeah.
Getting one of them, he's like, dude.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So man, this is quite the thing. So you got these vegan slaughterhouse videos. You got this like, tent where you can get Trojan freaking condoms. You can just go into this bang shelter. Like, wow.
It was hell. I was one of those. I've been thinking when things cool down, I should go back to one just to see how much it's changed.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see, man. Things have, like as we've talked about, man, things have changed a lot, especially over the last 10 years.
That was 2013. It's almost been 10 years.
10 years, right? And man, think about, especially the last like 5 years, I want to say, is like really the cancel culture and it's really gone the other way. Like where instead of like trying to offend to be edgy is cool, it's like the exact opposite where like, everything we say is somehow misconstrued or offended or, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's very, very different.
I'm just waiting for the Twitter moms to be like, oh, Josh should not have said that to the vegan. Cancel.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it's like, yes, I made it. All right.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's like a huge, it blows up about who is this Josh guy? Sounds like a pretty funny guy. Yeah. So there is oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, it's like, I was listening to a video, I think last night, it was like an interview with Brock Lesnar, like the MMA or WWF guy. And so he lives in Saskatchewan up here in Canada, and he like kills he hunts, right? So he kills all his meat and all that. They were kind of getting in the subject of veganism and all that, and how vegans generally will look at, meat eaters as worse than people that hunt, because hunting, at least you're doing it for your needs and you're doing it right, instead of the cowardly way of just going to buy a steak at the grocery store, right? So I was like, I'm sure I've heard that before, but it definitely resonated with me. And like, over the years, I have felt some guilt about, eating meat in a sense. Right. But it's, again, going back to some of the things we've talked about, like learned behavior, it's just, I'm 100% desensitized to it, because I've always been able to, from the time I was a kid, shopping with my mom. Okay, you need the chicken, you need the beef, blah, blah, blah. You don't even think about it. Right. So when you think about those videos, dude, I think that would, even when you watch some of those Netflix documentaries like Food Inc. and things of that nature, it does make you, I don't know how it is for you, but it makes me at least question or think my food decisions. But it'd be so challenging to be a vegetarian, I think. I just, yeah.
My thing is, because I work at a local grocery store, and so I'm like I'm the janitor that goes around, cleans up everything, and so when I go in the fridge, the meat department throws away their meat, and it's because it's bad or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But there's these 55-gallon like trash cans full of meat, and there's like always 6 or 7 filled every day.
Man.
And it's just one of those. I told them, why can't we just cut back? Because that's at least in those barrels 2 full cows worth of meat.
Yeah. So sad.
And they're like, honestly, no, we can't. We have to have X amount of meat for X amount of price. Yeah. And I'm like, but then we literally just killed 2 animals for no reason.
Yeah, just going right in the garbage. Not to mention, the whole supply chain of the cutting it up, butchering it, wrapping it, sending it in a refrigerated, truck, unloading it, working it. it's like all this, like, just to throw it in the garbage. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
Well,
it's pretty sad.
that's where one of them told me, because they realized I was kind of actually distraught. I'm like, this is sad. It's truly a waste of life.
It is.
And he said, oh, well, if it makes you feel better, they feed it to the hogs. I'm like, that doesn't make me feel better, because there's a lot of pork in there. Pork should not be eating pork.
No, that's yeah, exactly. It's like tricking, you know what I mean? Like when you hear those serial killers that trick their parents to eat their own children and all that weird kind of crap. Like, it's like that, dude. It's like, what are we doing? There is a lot of that. It's funny. Like, I remember that you mentioned you work at a grocery store, and that was my previous profession. And so I'm very familiar with, the waste, just in food in general, but especially meat, man, because it's like wasted life. It's just like, to be a part of that. To me, it's so low vibrational, just, not to get all like hippie tangent on this kind of stuff, but it's true, right? It's like, yeah. It does affect you, right? On
it really does. So it's not, there's times now, like, there's a very unique supervisor that has me do things that I'm not necessarily supposed to do, but to make him feel better, I do it.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
And that's one of them, is he wants me to clean the fridge. And I'm like, I told him once, I'm like, you know what? How about you move all the heavy stuff? Because I don't really feel like moving it. If you move it, I'll see it. I'm very observant, and I'll go clean it. I said, that way I can also be in and out and not have to look at the meat too long.
Hey, fair enough. Right. No, that's cool. Do what you got to do because it's like, it does. It's if you're, empathetic or anything in any way, it'll just lower your vibration going in there, and just because you think about it. Right. And it's just, man, yeah. Not to be a big downer, but like, just we got on that subject. I'm like, it's worth talking about. And then, you working at a grocery store, I'm sure you can relate and apparently you do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, we're going to say we're nearing up that time for you to get going. So I got 3 questions for you on that way out.
For sure.
Other than work, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy during these COVID times?
Yeah, no, good, very good question. So I made a sort of a makeshift MacGyver home gym. So nice. I did these 7 activities I made sure I did daily to keep myself mentally and physically sort of astute and good health, basically. So it was meditation, yoga, weight, like resistance training, jogging, journaling, singing, like vocal warm-ups, and playing guitar. So those 7, I called it my power hour, 10 minutes of each. So it's a little over an hour, but you get it. Okay. And I had this whole thing about this 10-minute thing that is like, so if you look at 10 minutes a day, every day, I missed one day, and it wasn't even Christmas. It was some random day, but I did all those activities for an entire year. And I was like, I think 61 hours by the end of the year. So anybody's like, 10 minutes is nothing. That's not going to amount to anything. I beg to differ. So it had some great results with me, and it was very doable. And it's just like something that signals to my body and everything. It would always set up my day. So I was doing that. So I made sure to do that just to keep my mental. And I did a lot of learning, books, audiobooks, podcasts with the journaling. So that music, made sure to, I wrote and produced an entire album with my band. We had to do a lot of, remote recording. So I'd send it to them. They record it at their house. They send it back to me, mix it that way. So it was really cool. It was interesting because we had people from all over Canada. My band is kind of dispersed over the years, but everybody showed back up on this album, which is cool. Cause I'm like, well, there's this like new jamming software that you can use. So you can basically have a rehearsal with people all over Canada, and there's basically no lag, which is super cool. So good things that kind of came out of the pandemic, right? Like we had to force some of the stuff forward. So musically, I would say I had the best like creativity and keeping myself in really good shape. And honestly, like I'm kind of introverted more, and I had the podcasting, right? Obviously too, right? So I actually, I don't want to say thrived because I dare say thrived. I thrived during the pandemic because I work well with structure. If something's limited or just, okay, this is your new parameters to work within, I do very well with that. Mm-hmm. It's when I have too many options is when I get in my own head about it. So COVID for me, I hate to, I don't want to be braggadocious about it or anything like that, but I did very well with the limitations that came up with COVID. The only thing that good. Yeah, it's perfect. I'm on the same page, I think, for that. The one thing that I had the most trouble with was working at a grocery store. And I'm sure you can relate to it because it was in a lot of ways, it's front line, right? Because it was, it's not like I'm not putting myself as like a healthcare worker by any means, but it was still very much a essential service. And you take a lot of shit when you're at a grocery store during, these troubled times. If you don't have fucking toilet paper or whatever it was, you know how it was at that beginning.
Oh my God, it was insane.
Crazy, man. And people are panic buying and people are full of anxiety. And you're all of a sudden your job description also includes like crowd control and calming people down and talking people off the ledge and stuff like this. So that was, it was very stressful. That's kind of what led me to fast forwarding my career and getting out of it when I did. The linchpin with that was definitely COVID. So that was the flip side of COVID for sure.
I think there's a lot of people reconsidering their situations like we have and 100%. Are willing to take a pay cut for freedom, which is
hell yeah.
So the other one, someone that is inspired by you and want to walk down a similar path, what are some tips, tricks, or advice you give them to get started?
Oh, so for if they're wanting to get out of their job, you mean?
Just in general, like get out of their job, start their own coaching podcast, etc.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a really good question. So yeah, for sure. First off, I learned this off of, I want to say it was a John Lee Dumas, other podcast or his audiobook, which is fantastic. He sets the table very well for getting your podcast or just your entrepreneurial pursuit started. And it's all about writing out on the left column what you're passionate about, and then on the right column what your talents are, where your talents lay, where you put some work in, right? So, and then connecting the dots. So that's what I did, and that's what led me to really firming up on podcasting. And realizing what the power of podcasting, as far as like what we've talked about before on your episode of my show, the networking, the self-learning, you can do it for selfish purposes, but then also benefits your audience, right? So, because I remember you used it for like business, learning about business initially, right? And then you kind of started expanding outwards, right? But still, it's like a self-learning thing that also provides value for your audience as well. So yeah, that's what it is like really, figuring out where your passions lie and then connecting it, finding the connection points with things that you're good at. And somewhere in there is where you're going to find your starting point, if nothing else. I'm not going to say that it's going to be, light bulb. Okay, that's where it is. Cause it's not, I mean, it wasn't like that for me.
No, it wasn't for me either.
It's been like a journey of like, okay, connecting dots, one step at a time, couple steps back to like, okay, reassess, a couple steps ahead again. That's part of the fun. Okay. So the second one would definitely be, view the process as an adventure, explore, because you have to enjoy the process. You have to get out of the mindset of achieving all the time and doing. It's not that. That is the byproduct of having a mindset of exploration and adventure. So you never view it as like hard work or never view it. It's like reframing, right? It's not, again, when we talk about failure, we've talked about it in this episode. It's not failure. It's learning. It's growing. As long as you're growing and having fun growing and approaching everything as like, if this is an adventure, this is part of the process, I'm enjoying the process. The other things will come. It's for me, that was the trickiest thing for me. So that's a huge piece of advice for anybody that's all about like the to-do lists and crossing off the to-do lists. That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is enjoy what you're doing, enjoying the process, having the mindset about the process as this is your adventure. This is the stuff that exhilarates you. That's what makes the hair on your arm stand up. And from there, the byproduct is achieving things and crossing things off your list. It's good to have goals, but enjoy getting to the goals, because there's nothing worse than having a mindset where it's all goal oriented and they get to the goal and you get that, split second of like endorphins and go, nice. And then, cause then your brain's just going to go, okay, what's next? And then you're not enjoying anything. Right. So that would be my other big one. Third, it's just a derivative of that. It's just remember to have fun. And part of that is having faith, right? And faith, regardless of how spiritual you are, you could reword it as assumption. Have the assumption that, time plus effort in will equal success. So if nothing else, that could be your faith-based assumption. So that would be my advice for sure.
100%. So where can everyone contact you at?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm just getting a program together right now. So you can find it at recoveryroadmap.me. And then there's a / so recoveryroadmap.me learn. So it's kind of just a commercial that I shot, and it just gives you some verbiage about what the program is about, which includes the one-on-one coaching sessions with myself. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Matt Gardiner 780. And if you're interested in my band, it's because we have been talking, music on the podcast here. My band is called Ground Level Falcons. So it's groundlevelfalcons.bandcamp.com. That's kind of our de facto website. It's got our whole discography. You can stream it and play it. We're on any, if you have Spotify or Apple Music, you can find us on there as well. Awesome.
Been an absolute honor and a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks, dude. Awesome. I love your show. I love what you're doing. And yeah, we're definitely bros. So we're going to keep in touch. I'm going to have you back on, and hopefully vice versa. If you ever have me back on, I would love to be back on. So, awesome, dude. Really appreciate it.
Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're a awesome person. Not many make it here. So being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? Can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using? If you do it on Apple and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations, you're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. Watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel, change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome, and see you next time.